Hi! I don't usually record videos in my husband's home, however, at the moment he is, so just to let you know, any random sounds you may hear in the background would be a result of him sort of pottering around. I apologize in advance. Sometimes he shouts for no apparent reason. It's part of his charm. Sometimes I find things difficult to articulate, so I'll find myself using songs or videos to convey what I just can't seem to put into words. Sometimes instinct and imagination take over. In the 80s and 90s, aesthetically within the goth scene, there definitely seemed to be a case of parallel ideas. I mean, back in the days of either no internet or internet and very little gothic resources, the only tangible things that we really had were clubs, shops, shows, and then of course CDs and magazines. And to those who are somewhat isolated and lived in places where much of the tangible was unavailable, it's kind of interesting how we all ended up in black. The CDs we own, many times the artist preferred go incognito, so you would often find that there would be either no photo of the band or a very obscured or small photo of the band, where much of the artwork within the booklet would be Gothic cathedrals, classic ruins, Victorian drawings, so a lot of the aesthetic was really evoked from the music itself. I remember being a teenager and having this vision in my mind of what I wanted my bedroom to look like. It was something out of a vampire novel. I would go to thrift stores and I would decorate my room with these vintage tapestries, and I'd find these unbelievably tacky, ornate gold frames but had horrible pictures on the inside that I would just punch the picture out of it and then put something that I felt more suitable inside. I had velvet and lace all over the place. I've collected vintage cameos, rosary beads, and it really was all inspired by the music that I'd immersed myself in. There was no YouTube back then. I mean, there was barely any internet, so the only animated views we really got of anything goth related was found on MTV. And oddly enough, I actually remember when Roz Williams' death was actually reported on by, I believe it was Kurt Loder, but I remember they reported on it on MTV News. And I went and looked, and I found it. It's still on their website, but they took down the video, but the news report itself is still there. I'll put a link in the description. Through our excursions, my friends and I, we found that there were VHS tapes. These VHS tapes gave us a rare visual into the bands that we had been listening to. Not only that, but some of the faces that we'd been seeing in the magazines. John Kubiak. Nowadays, you can find pretty much anything on the internet, but back in the 90s, this was not an option. So, as a teenage goth, these tapes were gold. We got to see the bands that were essentially the soundtrack to our lives come to life, and it was amazing. The first tape I got was the VHS companion to the Goth Box compilation from Cleopatra, and there was Switchblade Symphony, The Prophetess, Mephisto Walls, Alien Sex Fiend, who else was on that thing? Ghost Dance, Skeletal Family. It was really, really good. Some of the bands were live, like Eva O was on there too, Christian Death. So Christian Death was live, Eva O was live, Ghost Dance, they were live as well. But there were also music videos, which were really interesting as well, because it was nice to see them sort of put their own creative spin on their songs. Oh god, Mephisto Walls, okay. So one of my favorite songs at the time was Mephisto Waltz by Mephisto Walls, and it was one of those songs that give you that sort of heavy in the chest, butterflies in the stomach feeling you get when you're thinking about your crush. And the fact that that song had appeared on the VHS, so we actually had a video to go along with it, the video itself just confirmed my romantic daydreams. And it was crappy VHS quality, it was low budget, but it still, the band's aesthetic definitely matched the whimsical darkness of the song. It just made me want to be alone with a beautiful gothic boy in an abandoned Victorian courtyard, sort of playfully running around, exploring the ruins and dancing along to a song coming from absolutely nowhere. I also had a London After Midnight VHS, which was 4 songs. I think it was called Innocence Lost. I'm pretty sure it was Innocence Lost. 4 songs, and it also had behind the scenes footage, which shows them on tour. They went on a whole European tour and a US tour, so they had snippets of that. They had them in, they had interviews, they had them in the studio, so it was a really interesting tape. I really enjoyed it. Cannot find it anywhere on YouTube, so I can't link you anywhere, but I think I did actually see it on eBay. I'm going to look again and if I find it, I'll just put the link in the description if anybody wants to buy it if you have a VCR. I had the Wax Trax Black Box compilation. I had something by Zothamog, but that was a lot more industrial. But I don't remember which tape it was on, but I also had a copy of Rosetta Stone's The Witch, which is a really good video. Something I also had was a video released by Propaganda called The Trilogy, which is a series of 3 silent videos featuring the ever so lovely John Koviak. So what is the purpose of this video? What I have done is I've created a playlist for you. I created a playlist of the videos that I watched some 20 years ago as a baby bat. If I fail miserably at managing to put one of those little buttons at the end of the video so I can link you to the playlist, don't worry, I will put the link in the description. So the playlist will have every single video that appeared on the Cleopatra compilation. It will have the trilogy from Propaganda. Something not part of my baby bat years, but definitely worth including, was this video that I stumbled upon a few years ago. And it is of a goth night shot documentary style in the 80s in Sheffield, England. And what's really interesting about this is that you really get to know the club goers. Now, it's shot through the whole night, but obviously edited, so you're not watching 4 hours of footage. And you get to see the club goers, and a lot of them are getting interviewed as well, and it's really interesting, their take, because they're asked about the music they listen to, they're asked about the scene that they're involved in, and not once is the word goth or gothic ever used, because this is goth at its inception, so you can see that they're not really sure what scene they're involved in. And the best part is, they don't even care. The only thing they care about is that they're with their friends and that they're having fun. But the funny thing is that you will recognize a lot of the music that's being played. And what I found with watching this, and I just happen to be a very kind of romantic, passionate person anyway, but what I found with watching this video, and I hope you have the same sort of reaction to it, is that within 10 minutes, I felt like I was part of this club. And then toward the end, I felt like I actually knew these people, and I had this feeling of intense belonging, and it made me feel, just seeing goth at its inception like that, it made me feel like I was part of something bigger. I really hope that these videos help you feel the same magic that we've once felt. And God, they brought back so many memories, and I would be lying if I said that I wasn't at least a little bit sad to see that they're gone. But this will just serve as more fuel to help me forge ahead and try and find that reset button so that I could push it and then start it all over again.